Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Medeek wall plugin. My name is Nathaniel P. Wilkerson, and today actually I'm going to take a slightly different approach to things. Normally I make a lot of tutorial videos, but today I actually just wanted to use a bunch of the extensions here and basically construct a little ham shack or ham radio shack. So recently I got my ham radio license. I've been meaning to do it for years, and yeah, I was able to take the little test and get that, and so just kind of have some fun today and maybe draw up like a little ham radio shack. So yeah, let's get started here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a slab on grade foundation for this little structure, and I'm just going to kind of take you guys through how I'm going to use the Medeek extensions to build a ham radio shack or ham shack. Alright, so let's start now with a 16 by 12, not too large, fairly small structure. I'm going to use a slab on grade. I'm going to go ahead and just use 3-inch bar reinforcement. And let's go ahead and get that. Okay, so there's our slab. We're going to build directly off of that. I'm going to go ahead and default start with 8-inch wall, just regular 2x6 construction. I could do 2x4 since this is such a small structure, but I actually want this building to be fairly well insulated, and so I'm going to use a 2x6 structure instead of 2x4 or 2x6 studs. Alright, so there's our 4 walls, fairly simple. Let's go ahead and pop some windows and doors in that. So here we're using, of course, the Medeek wall extension, as many of you are aware of. I'm just going to put a door right here, and notice how I've laid out this grid. I really like using a grid when I do stuff in SketchUp, just because it allows, especially when I'm doing architectural work, because it allows me to reference off of this grid. And I typically use my own grid tool here. There is a free one, by the way, on SketchUp, the extension warehouse, I think it is. They have a free one, but I use what I call the Medeek grid, which is, it has kind of these major and minor grid lines. So this is part of the project plugin, the grid tool. Right, okay, so we added our door. Let's go ahead and add a couple windows now. And I could use a 36-inch window. In fact, I'm going to just start with that to just basic picture window or slider actually, but I'm going to actually change the size of that. But let's go ahead and just add 2 of them in here, one on the back wall, one on the front. Not too many windows. And then I am going to edit these windows here using the edit opening tool. And I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead with a 48-inch window. Let's go slider. And then I think, actually, you know what? I think I'll just leave that one as it is. That works for me. Okay, so we're just building the basics here. We're not getting too much into the weeds on this one. Just kind of throwing together a sample structure that I might use for my ham shack. Let's put ourselves a little slab on the front here. I'm going to go ahead and just put a little porch slab. I'll stretch it out here. Let's see, what do we got? Make sure we get it right to the edge. And I don't need reinforcement turned on. Right. Okay, so there's our little 4-inch slab. I'm actually going to take that. I'm just going to use the native tools and just drop it down a couple inches, because the grade actually is going to be a little lower, and you're going to kind of step up into the ham shack. Okay, so we got that. All right, I could go ahead and put a roof on this guy already, but before I do that, I'm actually going to use the electrical plugin, which is part of the Medeek extensions. It's not part of the mdkBIM package normally, but it is one of the extensions. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I kind of want to flesh out a little more like what I'm going to do with the outlets. Because with the ham shack being what it is, I'm going to get serious with outlets here, a little excessive perhaps. So I'm going to throw one in right there. And I'm actually going to do one every 4 feet, which is well above code. I think code is like every 12 feet. But I'm going a little crazy because, I'm going to be running equipment in this room, right? So I want to have a lot of accessibility for all that equipment to be plugged in. So as you can see, I'm basically running it on a 4 feet grid. Now, the actual placement of these might be slightly different just because of where the studs land, but you get the idea. We can always offset those on one side of the stud or the other. Okay, so you can see we've got a lot of outlets here, but that's the point. I want this to be a really well-equipped room. And as part of that, I'm going to also throw in the panel, just so I have that kind of planned out where I want to go. And I think I had it already set to number of spaces, 24. That's fine. We'll just go with that. It's not a super large panel, but it should do the trick. Okay. And then let's throw in switches here. So I've got a 2-gang. So I'm going to actually throw a 2-gang right here, one to control the interior lights and one to control the exterior lights. I'm not going to worry about the lights too much, but I do want to at least show the exterior lights. The interior lights, just going to be a couple light bulbs, so I'm not too worried about that. Notice how this, I put it right there, so I don't like where that's landed. So, what I usually do for the switches is if you need to move it, you can just hop into the group and you just give it a quick nudge over, shift it over using the native tools, right? Let's say 2 inches. That should do the trick. And when you actually build it, we'll probably sort that out a little bit, but it's going to be in that general vicinity. Okay, so there's kind of our electrical, what's going to happen as far as that goes. Just kind of a rough plan. I'm not going to put all the wiring in or the exterior where the power, it's going to have a drop coming down here, and then it's going to be trenched obviously to the house. So that's a whole nother thing. But let's go ahead and just throw in a couple exterior lights. I don't particularly have a good exterior light that I want here. I haven't added it into the library recently, which I do need to do. But let's just put this one here. This is representative. And you can see I'm trying to place it, but I'm trying to land on the grid at the same time. So sometimes it's a little more problematic. I actually want it well lit, so I'm going to put 2 lights here. And probably the style of this is off a little bit, but that is what it is. Okay, so there we have kind of our little ham shack with our lights and our electrical kind of planned out. One thing I am missing though, and of course being a ham shack, we need some Ethernet cables, some coax, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in there too, just because. So I'd already actually messed around with this a little bit, set this up so I had the right settings. You can go in here and, I'm going to go with a 4-port, quick port type jack. So I've got 2 Ethernet cables, a coax, and a telephone. Let's go ahead and update that. And I've already created these custom colors. You can change your colors for each one of your Ethernet. So I'm just going to have 2 different colors, just because it looks cool. So let's go ahead and drop that one right there. That's going to be my primary desk location. And you can see we've got a couple of Cat5s, a telephone, and a coax. Yeah, I'm not sure I need all that, but hey, can't hurt, right? All right, and then let's see, let's put one right there. On this one, I'm going to forego the coax and just put a blank in there, and also white, and I'm going to throw a blank in the other bottom one as well. So there we go. So let's switch that out. We do want the Ethernet cable, so you'll see how this looks. So basically we're running a 4-port as well here, but it's going to be just a couple blanks and a couple Ethernet cables. Okay, so there's our low voltage stuff. Again, where the actual placement is, may differ slightly, but that's kind of my thinking. And I think now we are ready to put our roof on. So let's go ahead and draw a roof. Okay, so I click that. My menu's over on my other screen. I'm just going to put a common truss roof on this guy. I've got to come in here. I should turn off the sheathing so it's a little easier to draw. Make sure you click, the out to out. We're going to go here and then stretch out across here. And let's start with a 4, a pitch of 4. Let's go advanced roof. Sure, just leave all the defaults for now. Click on, it wants the gypsum, it wants the gutters, and there we go. Okay, now you can see I also had the soffit and fascia turn on, which is great. I do want that. One thing though I am noticing here is I don't like the look of that roof. It's too flat for me. Okay. I mean, it could work, but it's a little bit on the flat side. So we're going to change that up. So let's go ahead and edit that assembly, and we're going to go say a 512. Take a look how that looks. And that looks pretty good. So let's try a 6 just to see. See, and that's the nice thing about this being parametric, is it's just regenerating all that. You don't have to sit there and mess with anything manually. You know, actually, I don't know, I kind of like that. The only thing is I'm not a huge fan of an 8-foot ceiling. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that up. So I'm trying to remember now what the default stud size is for a 9-foot ceiling. Let me see, 9 foot. I'm just pulling this up on my browser over here. Stud length, or stud height, sorry. I think it's 104 5/8 of an inch is the standard. And I think these ones, if I remember right, is 97 1/8. So the 97 1/8, by the way, is the standard stud height for a 8-inch or 8-foot wall. Okay, so instead of, we can edit each wall and bump each wall up, but that's the hard way to do it. So what I'm actually going to do is I could use the layer thing here to mess with the layers, but I'm just going to show you guys first of all the layers or tags that are in this this model that are automatically created by the plugins. So I'm going to just turn off some of these, right? We're just going to turn off the cladding, the sheathing, and the gypsum for the walls, and I'm going to turn off the roof cladding and sheathing, and I'm also going to turn off the soffit and fascia. Okay, so now we can kind of see what's going on here with our skeleton, right? Right. Okay, so as you can see, this is a pretty small truss, so that queen post truss is probably the appropriate one, but you know, we can always change it up if we want to. So for instance, if we don't think a queen post is needed, maybe we go to a king post, which is even simpler. And this will of course be determined probably by your truss manufacturer on what they determine is the correct configuration for these trusses. So I'm just going to go with that king post. Okay, so now let's raise that. Let's raise these walls up. So the easiest way to do this, I use the wall copy tool. Click that, the little eyedropper, click the wall, just any one of these walls is fine. And we're only going to change the wall height, right? So we're not going to change anything except that. So we're going to go 104.625, which is 104 5/8 of an inch. Click update on that, and then we're just going to select each wall in turn. And notice how it's the only thing that's changing is the height of this wall. Okay, now you notice it didn't lift the roof. Well, we'll get to that. But first we're going to just bump up all the heights on these walls, close that out, and now you can see all these walls have been raised up. So all we need to do is we just basically need to move this guy, and we can use the native tools. I'm just going to grab the corner right here and just pull this up, bump it up by 7.5 inches, and now bingo, we've got ourselves, the wall is sitting perfectly. Okay. So that's pretty much it as far as the general structure. You've got all your studs, you've got everything in there. And actually when you take away all the sheathing and cladding, you can see also where your outlets are landing. So as far as that goes, yeah, these are gonna have to shift a little bit, but that's not a big deal. You'll notice they actually all center, except this guy is sitting out here. They all center up on the studs. And if we do want this centered, we can always do that, by the way. We can always put in a block or two, and so we can position it that way. But so what was I going to say? I think, yeah, it's nice to have the sheathing cladding turned off so you can just kind of see the skeleton, see what's going on in your structure, and that makes it kind of convenient. So now I just wanted to kind of add in the furniture. But before I do that, I'm going to do one last little thing, and notice that this is fairly tall, right? So, and a kind of tall, narrow structure. So, you know, I'm a structural engineer, right? I mean, that's what I've been doing for years. So my first thought is, well, we want to make sure this is properly anchored. And so I'm just going to show you guys that real quick just for fun. I'm going to edit this wall, and there's a lot of options in here, by the way. So By the way, I'm also approaching this from. This video is primarily not actually for my power users or my users of my extensions, because they've all watched my tutorial videos. They know how to do all of this. Mostly, I'm making this video for people online who are interested in building a ham shack, and so I'm just saying, hey, this is kind of fun thing to do in SketchUp, and if you have the extensions, it makes it that much easier, of course, to do all this because it automates a lot of this for you. So I'm just showing you a few little things that are kind of geared toward those people that are not familiar with the plugins. So what I'm actually doing right here is I'm adding in hold downs on this wall on both sides. And I'm going to go just with the small SSTB16. And by the way, this is all Simpson strong tie hardware, if you're not aware of that. And you'll see what I mean in a second here. So there we go. So we've got our hold downs on our corners. And in fact, I would probably double up these studs. It doesn't show the nut, but it does show the hold down. So let me do that. I'm going to actually go back in here real quick. And that's the nice thing. You go in here, you edit this. And we're going to change this corner stud quantity to 2, and we're also going to change this corner stud quantity to 2 on the other side, and go ahead and update. And you see we got 2 studs there now. Now you see a little clash, right, between the hold down and this other 2x6 where we have a backer for the gypsum, which is fine. We'll probably just notch this out when we actually construct it to make sure we can fit those hold downs in there. But let me just show you guys real quick what's going on there. I mean, I know this video is getting long already, but just wanted to really dive into it with you guys. So if you turn on the transparency of the concrete, you can see we've got rebar in here for the floor. I mean, that might be a little overkill, but and you can also see the anchor bolts and the anchor bolt for the specific anchor bolt for the hold down itself, right? So this will prevent overturning and racking of the structure, and this will be an entire shear wall, right? So just wanted to put that out there, and the extensions give you that ability to throw some hold downs in, that sort of thing. Let's go ahead real quick, and we'll do that here with the same wall. Just edit the wall, come down here, bump up our corner stud quantity to 2. And then we're going to go back into the advanced options. We're going to go to hold it, turn it on. We don't need HDU8s. Those are probably way overkill. We're just going to go with the HDU2s. And that's a 7/8 bolt. We don't want that one. We just want this guy right here, which is a 5/8 solution. So we'll go ahead and hit update on that. And you can see we've got those in there. Okay, great. So let's turn back on some of our layers here, or tags, if you will. I'm going to turn back on the gypsum, and actually I'm going to get out of this edit mode here. I don't want to mess with that right now. Okay, so obviously you can't see anything because we've got everything on. Everything's covering everything, but we'll fix that. Just turning on a few layers here. Sorry, takes me a little while. Okay, so we turn everything back on. And then, so there's our structure. But last but not least, I'm going to just hide this for a second. I can unhide it here, so we can just look inside. And then I went ahead and I really like these specific desks that I use. I'm going to show you guys real quick. I use this. I think it's made by Bush Furniture. I think it's kind of a corner desk, and they also have some straight sections. Now I have a couple of these at my, in my house here, or apartment, I guess right now, townhome. But and purchasing these is great, but they're pricey, right? So I basically just created. I got the basic dimensions of them, and I just modeled them in SketchUp prior to making this model. And so this is kind of the layout of the desks that I want to do. And what I'm going to do is I've already positioned this kind of, so I'm going to drag this into the structure here. I'm just using the native tools. I don't need any extensions for this. And you can see I've dragged it exactly, and this is why I use the grid, because I could just nail things quickly. Right, and so it's 29.5 inches off the floor. They're 27 inches deep, and the corner units are 4 feet by 4 feet. And so that's kind of my layout of what I want to do for my desk inside. And I think instead of purchasing, these Bush Furniture units, which I could do. But because of I want to get this, and it may not be this tight. I have it right up tight against the wall, right? So instead of doing that, I may actually, bring it in a little bit. And if I do that, then of course that will change the dimensions of this central unit right here, right? It's going to have to be smaller. So because it's kind of a custom deal, I'll probably end up cutting these out of plywood, and then building kind of my own desks, and just kind of use the Bush furniture ones as kind of a template. So that's it. Pretty much, yeah, there you go. There's a nice little ham shack. We've made a few adjustments. We used the extensions to build it all out real quick. And, if you needed to run this by the building department, I mean, a guy could do that. Last but not least, I just noticed, I'm going to unhide the roof as well. Let's go unhide all. I didn't trim out the sides of the walls, so I'm going to actually show you guys how to do that. So we can turn on the trim, and trim has lots of options, right? The exterior trim. I'm going to actually turn off most of these. All I really want is the outside corner trim and the inside corner trim, but there is no inside corners. I'm going to turn off the band board. I'm going to turn off the freeze board, which goes up on top, and I'm also going to turn off any of these other options here just in case, but I don't think I actually need to turn those. Oh, the skirt board, that's the one I wanted. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see, we've turned off all that. Go ahead and hit update on that. And you can see now we've got a corner trim applied to our, and I'm not sure exactly what this side, I mean, this siding is actually the hardy board type siding, but I might actually use vinyl or something. I'm not sure exactly, but I just wanted something representative. So I'm going to do the same on this wall here. Again, come down to your advanced options, turn on your trim, and yeah, let's turn off the band board, freeze board. I've got all these options turned on. I mean, and by the way, you can set most of these, I think, in the global settings of the extension. But I'll just go ahead and update that wall. We got the skirt board turned on, so let's turn the skirt board off. I mean, you could leave that on there, I guess. It does look nice, but I just want it fairly simplistic. A nice structure, something you wouldn't be ashamed to have behind your house, but we don't got to break the bank on this one. Okay, so that's it. Basically, there's your 16 by 12 ham shack, a couple windows, nice little gable roof. Basically, yeah, lots of outlets, that sort of thing. I don't know what this would cost to build. I have the estimate module, and maybe we'll do that another day, where we can get into the actual estimating of this thing and figure out what this is going to cost. But just from a geometric standpoint, yeah, there's your ham shack. And yeah, if I had this little ham shack set up in my backyard, I'd be a pretty proud owner of it. All right, guys, appreciate it, and we will talk to you all later.